Welcome to the Age Well Home and Lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Bradley. I'm the founder of Age Well Home and Lifestyle. This podcast is rooted in one essential truth. To age well and thrive, we must be radically curious. Curious about who we really are, about what truly matters. Curious enough to question everything we've been told so we can finally design a life and home that reflects our truest selves. Here we treat life as our masterpiece. We see ourselves as detectives gathering clues, uncovering our deepest gifts, and consciously curating a lifestyle and home that is both healing and fulfilling. Join me for solo episodes and conversations with guests where I help us get closer to the root of living our best lives in mid-age and beyond. Mike is an insurance agent with Country Financial in Gresham, Oregon. He started his agency in February of 2024. Before that, he spent 24 years with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. He graduated from Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, and is originally from Federal Way, Washington. Mike relocated to Oregon in 2002 with Wells Fargo. He met his wife Shirley in 2005, and they have been married now for 18 years. They have a 15-year-old daughter, Allie. She is a freshman at Portland Christian High School. Mike is heavily involved in the youth club soccer program as Allie plays for the Oregon Premier Football Club Girls Academy team in Lake Oswego. Mike enjoys scuba diving, golfing, and following his favorite sports teams. Today we're talking insurance. It's not always an exciting topic, but with Age Well Home and Lifestyle and just life in general, insurance helps us to feel ease, peace of mind, safety, in my mind. So, Mike, share with us in your experience, your work experience, your life experience, what insurance provides us other than just the protection of a thing.
Yeah, obviously you're trying to protect something, some type of asset, whether it's, future assets or your current assets. But really what insurance does is it gives you peace of mind. It gives you that comfort that you know that you're protected in case there's that uncontrollable event that happens,
Yeah.
weather related, accident, whatever it may be down the line. You want to make sure that you're protected. And there's so many different variables that are out there that you want to make sure you're talking with a trusted individual, an insurance agent, to where they can look at all the different scenarios that may pop up in your life so that you and your family are properly protected.
And with that protection, I think of home insurance, and we're going to dive deeper into home insurance.
Yeah.
But talk about all the different types of insurance a little bit, maybe a little list at first of just all the insurances that we might
Yeah.
not think about.
Well, yeah. So if you're working with a company, you may have your health insurance, and if you don't, if you're an independent contractor or self-employed, you may have to go on the market to have health insurance. We have insurance for auto insurance and home insurance, and then you also have life insurance, that's out there. So there's a lot of different spectrums of where you can go down that path, and then also just the type of products that you have as well. And when I say that is you have home insurance, but what about your local farmer? They're going to have a specialized farming insurance. So there's just different things that are going to be out there. And so that's where you want to have a trusted individual to be able to take care of all your needs.
100%. And the details for each one are so complex. And specifically with mid-age and beyond, the clients I work
Yeah.
with, who are most of the time, who are downsizing, they've accumulated assets over their lifetime. What would you recommend? Maybe something they're not thinking about in regards to protecting what they've built for their family and as they move forward.
Yeah, so obviously, if they've, with a lot of your clients, they've worked their entire lifetime, they've built up their assets, so they probably have maybe, I'm just going to do assumptions, but you've got some investments, you've got IRAs, you got different things that are out there that you've built up either through work or outside of work, maybe some stocks. So you got those assets that you want to have protected. You may have a property or two, so they're buying a home with you or you're doing an assessment with them, but you want to make sure that home's protected in case there is a fire or a flood or, there's different events that could happen. But, I talk about an umbrella policy. That's like liability protection. And what I usually use that as an example is because no one really can picture what liability is, right? So what I do is I talk to them about that's really like if you remember watching Perry Mason or those things. We are going to court. This is a legal defense fund. This is where if there was ever any type of situation to where someone could say, you know what, you did me wrong, even if you were in the right, but are they taking you to court because they want to maybe take advantage of some of those assets you've accumulated. So having the proper legal defense fund, that liability protection is going to be so key so that you can have $1 billion company be supporting you and be behind you versus just you on your own.
Yes, yes. And all of these, and what comes to my mind is, oh my God, we can get so overwhelmed with, oh my God, I need to protect myself. What would you say are like the essential one, two, three to think about, especially in midlife and beyond, but for everybody in general? What would you say? Insurance can get overwhelming with all the different types of insurance. What would you say are the essential one, two, three that people should have midlife and beyond, or just begin to think about? We know home insurance. We'll
Yep.
talk about that more. But what do you think?
Yeah, so obviously, if they're driving, you got in law requires we have to have auto insurance, so that's a given right there. But the things that people seem to miss out on is the liability protection, which I mentioned just a few minutes ago, but also that life insurance, and I actually don't call it life insurance when I'm talking with my clients, and it's because unfortunately, no one's able to bring somebody back to life. I can't bring your spouse back. I can't bring your child back. I can't, and so they are irreplaceable. So that gives them a disservice when I say life insurance. But what I can do is protect their loved ones, which is you, with their financial income that had been coming in. So basically, I talk about it from an income protection standpoint of how am I going to protect your income, because at the end of the day, you and your family, they have goals. They have goals of either retirement, college, of what they want to accomplish, and I want to make sure that that goal does never gets off track, and that we're still giving them the financial resources that allows them to still have those accomplishments so they don't veer off. I can't change the pain, but I can make it to where at least they can still be going through and having those goals in mind.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a huge part when we do. And I want you to share the story of your friend and kind of, it might
Yeah.
not have been what got you into insurance, but you mentioned in our past conversations in regards to your friend's experience. So share
Yeah.
share that.
Yeah, so and you sometimes will see this like on Facebook there, but I'm at an age where I'm 49, and so
Me
I
too.
still yeah, okay, and I feel like I'm 25, 29. Deep down, I still have like probably the sense of humor, and all that stuff of, I like to have fun, but at the same time, I've grown up, I've got responsibilities, I've got a family, I got a spouse, a wife, but we also think about someone that is going to be passing away. I think of like maybe my grandparents when they were in their 70s or 80s or whatever. It's like they lived a long life, and they did a lot of good things, but unfortunately, time did catch up to them. But what's hard is the ones that you go to school with, or the ones that are in our kind of circle, where it's like you see them get sick or hurt. And so a couple of years ago, my daughter, she's 15 now. 13 was at the time, but she had a circle of friends, and this is the guy that I was at soccer practice with, and that we would be hanging out with and talking to every day, and so just a good family friend came down, in fact, my wife and him and his wife were out at the Mexican restaurant, and he just had a seizure, that right there, and it was just all of a sudden they take him to the hospital. Turns out he ended up having brain cancer. Now, he fought that like a champion and the fighter that he was. And, I mean, it went like 3 years, the radiation, chemo, the whole 9 yards. But then it came back. But, unfortunately, cancer's that, taboo thing to where, it can sometimes just get the best of us. And so you're at 13 years old, daughter. he passes away in that July, and it's just like you see like how that impacts the family, and the stresses and things that you aren't even really thinking about. You got how does a 13-year-old cope with the loss of a father? Do they
Exactly.
need therapy? Do you have the resources to put your child, if you're a living mom, do you want to make sure that your daughter can still go to, school or have that therapy to deal with the stress that she just lost her father, and then and we haven't talked about the shelter, making sure that the rent and the mortgage is being paid, so that you got all those financial concerns. And so you see all that stress that can be put on the family, and you can be there as a friend. I can bring them food, to cook dinner. That's one evening or one dinner right there.
Yeah.
But from a financial aspect, life insurance itself can really support that entire family. And yeah, so that to me, I have a big passion about that. And I remember years ago I was talking with an insurance agent, and he's like, I was at a funeral. I knew that they were going to be okay, because we had, and at least that put them at peace right there. So
Yeah.
I have a big passion about it. I will do a home policy. I can do an auto policy, and I, that's kind of your day thing. But anytime I'm doing any type of life insurance, what I'll call an income replacement plan, that's where I really start talking with that family, and getting to make sure that they are protected.
Yeah. Yeah. And when they're protected, when we're protected in these situations, we can then have space to deal with the grief.
Yes.
If we, and I think of, just emotions, if we don't have that space to deal with the grief and sadness, all the stuff that comes with just losing your loved one,
Hmm.
if you can't, if you're just worried and in stress response because of finances, you don't get to move through the experience with the emotions that are there,
Yeah.
and it
Well,
really gets stuck.
it does. And so like, if you lost a spouse and you didn't have and you felt like you had to go back to work that next, week or whatever the case is, did you really have time to like let it go? You haven't.
Yeah.
So, you may need, and everyone's different, there, but, take the required time off, is that 30 days, 6 months, whatever, to really make sure that your house is in order, but also, and you're very passionate about this, as well, but is your soul in order? Are you good, so that you're be able to go out there and do your best? And that's where I love how you work with your clients. You do an awesome job there, Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mike. That's the point to me. The point, like
Yeah.
I don't think all people think, well, I can't do that if it's not in alignment with my soul
Yeah.
and true self. That's like number one for me. I'm like, if it's not, it's either a hell yes or a hell no.
Yeah.
And I can most of the time differentiate, but helping people live their best lives is what insurance helps us do, because if we don't have that insurance, we can't move through our lifestyles with ease. So yeah, that's why I think we're a
Yeah.
good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's dive into home insurance.
Yes.
So home insurance drives me bonkers sometimes.
Yeah.
For instance, so definitely tell me all about home insurance. But specifically, I know in this part of the world, we get a lot of
Yeah.
rain.
Get a lot
And
of
I
rain.
know I've had some water leak issues and had to switch home insurances and da da da. So talk about home insurance a bit.
Yeah. So I will say, when the person's just going online and they're trying to maybe fill out their home insurance at first, there's a lot of things that are out there that they may not be aware of. And there's like that, you got your house coverage because of a fire, and they may have it valued at X. Let's just say 300,000 or 400,000, whatever that number is, for the value of your home. That's great. That's going to replace that home. But there's always those different provisions, those hidden things that are in an insurance policy, and some of that can come to water. Insurance companies don't like water because of how much damage it does. That's why a lot of times flood insurance is separate. But water damage itself, when you talk about frozen pipes or sewage backup or sump pump failures, a lot
Yeah.
of times you need to have a special endorsement, and that's where talking with your insurance carrier, your insurance agent, is so highly recommended. We're in a day and age where we like to try and take away the individual. Sometimes we're like AI, or we're trying to just do things online. I just want to go and shop on Amazon. Not saying that there's anything bad. We're Prime members or whatever the case is there too. But did I really get to know all the details about that product or the risk there? And that's where,
Yeah.
to me, the value of where the insurance agent comes in is we look at those different opportunities so that you can be properly protected. I will say I'm not going to say any names or anything that wouldn't be proper of me, but I do know we had a client that, they were at a previous company and they had a $20,000 water damage, and that company would only pay out up to $5,000
Yeah.
because they didn't have the proper endorsement there. So what's that mean to that client? They were on the hook for $15,000. Not a very good experience, obviously. So those are
Even
the
though they had been paying insurance and
yes, exactly. And it's just because of the restrictions that were there. Now, those are different examples, and that can happen, but people run through that portion there. So so I would say the water damage, sump pump failure endorsement, that's something to at least be thinking about in the back of your mind, to at
yeah.
least ask your agent. And it's, if your policy already has that covered, wonderful, that's great. But at least, and it is optional, but it is something that at least you're taking on the risk, and maybe you're doing a little self-insuring, like, hey, I'll take that risk, but at least you're in the know.
Yeah.
The other one that is important is a service line endorsement. Many people, people are experts in a lot of different fields. Some may know this, some may not. So I'm not trying to talk down, but this is just something that I just like to bring awareness to, is that you as the homeowner are responsible for your service lines and your pipes from your house to the street. So, we have some wonderful big green trees, that are growing in our front yards at times, right? Well, they all have huge, large root structures, and they may grow into your water pipes, causing water floodage and leakage there. And so you would
Mm.
be on the hook for having that, repairing those fees if you didn't have a service line endorsement. So just making sure that you have the proper coverages within a home policy is extremely important.
Yeah.
And then the last one I'll leave is not really due to weather, but this is around like personal property. I like to just do things in three, but personal property. You could have $300,000 worth of personal property coverage, for all your belongings. And that's going to be, your pictures, your artwork, it's going to be your clothes and your furniture, your electronics. But those all have caps on a per item limit. So let's say that you have your wedding ring and it was stolen in your house. Well, there may be a cap of only 2,000, 2,500. It's going to depend on your insurance carrier there. So again, talk with your insurance agent. But if that was a 15 or $20,000 ring, then all of a sudden, because you didn't have that as scheduled C property coverage, then
Mm.
then you would be on the hook of not getting the full replacement value of what that ring was, and you could be missing out on about 15, $17,000 worth of value because they would only be paying back to the maximum of that per item limit.
I think it's a really important point that you mentioned in regards to we try to do everything on AI or on the
Yep.
computer, do it ourselves. But talking to somebody like yourself, and you have a lot of experience with mortgages, so
Yes.
you really know the home space super well. But talking with you to really discuss this is everything that we have, this is our plan, so that you get to know each other
Hmm.
and be optimally protected at whatever phase of life you're in.
Exactly.
So important. I just wanted to bring that up again or highlight that. And then in the home space, I'm seeing more and more ADUs,
Yes.
multi generational living. What is there anything different to think about in regards to first the ADUs and then maybe multi generational living where we have multiple people in the home?
Yeah. So with the ADUs, let's tackle that one first. The
Yeah.
ADUs are like mother-in-law suites there. People are doing that always, like there's always a separate type of thing. I mean, there's the builders, and they'll make sure that they get the right permits and the whole nine yards. But if the depending on your insurance carrier, you may be required to have actually a separate policy for that ADU unit, because if it's one where they can, in a sense, we're at least at my company that we look at is that if they could substantially live there without having to go into the house. So, for example, do they have a kitchen? Do they have a bathroom? Do they have, running water, electricity, the whole nine yards? But if you could actually sustain living there without ever going back into the house, we would actually call that like a second residence on the property, and it would require a second policy
Okay.
that's there to be properly protected. I would say contact your insurance carrier, insurance agent. This is again why you want to make sure you have that special relationship with your insurance agent, and where I recommend that, because a lot of times, if again online, you may just think I got a separate structure on the property. It's not a shed, it's not a barn, it's something that has more value and more worth, and it also has more risk. Does it have the type of electricity, heat sources, and all that stuff if they weren't up to code, or all that type of thing. So that's the
Yeah.
reason why the insurance companies require that as a second. It's not because they want just a second policy, but there is additional risk, and we'll just treat it individually.
Yep. And I can totally see that because most of the time they're built also different years.
Yeah.
They're in different condition, different electricity, different plumbing, totally different spaces. Sometimes they're built at the same time, but most of the time, totally different years that they're built to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what about the multi? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You were going to ask about the multi-generational.
Exactly. Anything else to be aware of there with different generations living under one roof?
From a just that you're responsible for everyone that's in the house. So if someone if got hurt, fell at the house, you're responsible for that. Their friends that come over. Depending on your insurance carrier, this kind of goes into more of the auto side, not the home. But you we look at all the drivers in that household. And the
Okay.
reason why is, let's say that you've got grandma and grandpa that are living with you, and or your kids. If they had their individual auto insurance policies, and they had to run to the local Safeway to get some milk because you forgot that for dinner, that type of thing, but their car is backed up, or in the way the cars are, it's like, I don't want to have grandpa have to get out and move his, to move his car or anything. I'll just take grandpa's car. We're still There's a risk there, because you got a different driver driving that person's vehicle. So we
Okay.
do rate on all the drivers in a household because they all have access to the vehicles usually.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But in regards to the home itself, it would still be whoever is the owner of that home who has the policies and things like that.
That is correct. Just the homeowner will be responsible there. You've got the personal property, that's the coverage, and really what you're looking for is making sure that wind damage, fire damage, all those different smoke, that's there. We want to just make sure that they're protected.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Again, that's what I'm seeing more and more. And obviously, in my space, because that's what I focus on, that's what I'm seeing more and more of more ADUs, more older individuals getting rid of their properties and moving in with family and
Yeah.
expanding homes. So, thank you.
Yeah. No.
Um, okay, so tell another story. I feel like stories are so
y-
impactful. It gets to the heart of the matter.
It does.
Tell another story of, an unexpected, somebody who either didn't have the insurance they should have, that if they had it, life would have turned out a lot differently, or again, more success story, either one, anything that comes to your
Well,
mind.
well, to me, like one of the success stories, and again, this is what can sometimes separate insurance companies. And I know we've been talking about the home side. The one that pops to mind, though, is more on the auto side, on the negative thing. And that is because insurance companies right now, and it's, kind of elephant in the room, no one wants, with inflation and costs, no one wants to pay extra that's there. And so, people are always kind of fighting with rates or different things, and you can either make your money on the front end or the back end. And I've seen at times, and this is kind of the negative, but depending on what a company may say that your car is worth, or and if it was in an auto accident, and it's like, hey, we only think that this auto accident should pay out $5,000. But if the mechanic says no, it's actually 8,000, you are on the hook for that $3,000, even though you have full coverage. Your insurance company is saying, nope, I'm stopping to write the check because that's what it should cost. And so so then all of a sudden that a claims adjuster just saved their insurance company $3,000
Yeah.
right there. So it's that kind of fair thing. So the reason why I bring that up is having the proper insurance company when it comes to claims is so important. And you don't see that. It's like a rainy day. You don't really think about that. It's like I'm invincible. I'm a good driver, or my house has never had a situation. But it only takes one accident or one situation at the house where you've got a kitchen fire or whatever the case is. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure your insurance company is there to protect you. And I do have a positive story on this, and it doesn't sound positive at first, but there's a client. They had $1 million home, and it ended up catching on fire. Total loss.
Oh,
It was like all the way down. They're out in the street crying, and it is sad. And they're calling us as their agent to come out there and check on them. So we're out there that same day. It's like we live in the community. We're here, so it's like, who can I call? Well, within 48 hours, they have a check in hand so that we're paying for at least their room, their food, all those different additional living expenses as we do this. And by the week's end, they already had a meeting with the contractor and builder of how they're going to repair and rebuild this house. That's claim service to what? Peace of mind. Obviously, you've got memories, you've got physical possessions that, some are going to be replaceable, some aren't right there, but we're going to be there to start replacing the replaceable.
yeah. And that is the key is feeling that somebody has your back. You're in
Yes.
those situations, and especially if you're living life, you feel like you do the right thing. You work, you go to school, you do the things, you have your insurance, and then something happens. And it's like, oh, what is this claim
Yeah.
process? You want that friend. Um, Go ahead, you say what you're
Yeah, I was
going to
gonna say,
say.
yeah, you want that friend, you want that personal connection to where it's like I can reach out and I can talk to it with them. And again, this goes back to not to denounce, but this is where if you only are working with an 800 number or something that's online, when times are tough, again, you're working through an 800 number or online. And I will say from a patient standpoint, phone trees get the best of me. I'm not a very
Oh,
patient person right there, right there. So I would rather call up, all my clients have my personal cell number. They're reaching out to me because they are an extension of their family, or I'm an extension of their family unit to where if they do need something, they're able to get a hold of me. Obviously, if it's, if I'm sleeping, I can't answer, all that type of thing. But they're getting a call first thing, as soon as possible.
yeah, and that's so important to me
Yeah.
personally. Again, those phone message things drive me bonkers. If somebody's really not, and it happens in the medical system these days
Yes.
too, you get passed along, and it's so frustrating because you don't believe people see and hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm so feeling and sensing, and obviously you truly care about your clients, and that personal connection is key. You mentioned the personal connection. Where do you serve more than just local, other states, or is
Yeah.
it just
So
local?
Yeah, so I'm personally licensed in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada. Um, Obviously, I'm a big I live in Gresham and my office is in Gresham, so I've got a big community um, impact here. My daughter goes to Portland Christian High School. That's kind of like in the northeast part of Portland, so I'm actively involved in the local community and with her school there. My daughter also plays club soccer for Oregon Premier FC. And that's in the Lake Oswego, Westland area. And so I'm down there 3, 4 days a week, with all of her practices there. So I'm very heavily involved, like in this east side. But I also, with my career we kind of highlight that just a little bit, but in the mortgage industry, I've got a lot of real estate connections with all the processors.
That one was just a squirrel.
Oh, okay.
Go right
So,
ahead and finish.
okay, so I've got a lot of connections in the real estate business, in processing, loan origination, in Nevada and in Oregon. And if my clients have, let's say, a second home, or they're going to be traveling or just across the river, it's nice to be able to still have that personal connection. And so that's where why I'm licensed in different areas there. But I've also got, extended family that's in Southern Oregon, Eastern Oregon. They have a little bit different, and we'll maybe talk about this a little bit later on, if we get to it. But there's different challenges with our weather systems, in different climates. So, but anyways, to answer your question, I have clients all over the state of Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and Washington.
It's so fantastic. And it's a good point because a lot of families do have that second river house, that second mountain house, and
Yeah.
things like that. How about, and this just popped up in my brain, but in regards to real estate investing, do you work with people who might have multiple properties like that in regards to investments, rentals, and things like that?
Yeah, so I've got so yes, so that's where having the additional states is important too, because they could have a second or third home there. The company I'm with, Country Financial, we have parameters to where we don't have where we have restrictions on the number of rentals. So if you've got 10, 15 rentals or whatever, that's going to be exceeding the guidelines, of what we're looking for. But if you've got, a handful of rentals, we would be able to support you and all your rental properties.
Fantastic. And in regards to the different locations, say you're here in Oregon and something happens in Idaho, do you have other agents or claim people who are like on site there that go to the home or
Yeah.
where it happened?
Well, yeah. First of all, your first point of contact could always be with me directly, because I'm handling your account, and I pull up the policy. We're able to look through what type of coverage you have, put you at peace of mind, next steps there. But then I would also get you in touch with our claims department, and that's where I can be your advocate and your resource in working with the claims team of, like, hey, this is where we're having. We have kind of we have people strategically located, to where they'll be able to support you on the claim side. But then we also have a rapid response, claims groups, and a lot of insurance companies do this. So if there's a natural disaster or something that's bigger, like a hurricane, I know, like, when this was a years, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, but when we had down in Southern Oregon, I believe it was the fires that were kind of in that Ashland, Medford
Yeah,
area.
yeah,
Phoenix, was the town that really got destroyed. We had, like, our entire claims rapid response team go down there, to where they're just writing checks, basically, here, and those clients needed the funds right away, and
yeah.
the resources, and that's where, and I know we have, we're very proud of our claims service. They make videos, of that, and that, I think, is one of the things that really does distinguish us and sets us apart of making sure, that you're taken care of. I kind of use the analogy. I don't know if it's fair or not, but we've maybe been on vacation. You've gone to, like, a Hawaii, and when you walk into a lobby, you know the difference between a 3-star and a 5-star hotel right away. Like, they're all going to have a bed and bathroom and the towels and all that stuff, but you just know when you walk into that 5-star one that you've got the water, but it's also got the the pineapple and the different strawberries and guava and different things already, like, mixed into the water deal. So it's just, those little things that can make you go a long way.
Yeah, that's huge. And I love how you describe that because that's exactly it. We can get insurance online or whatever. But hey, if you really want that peace of mind and to know what's going to happen, and this is again, I think we don't think about this. When it does happen, this is what you're going to experience. We want to experience that 5-star
Yeah.
good service so we know we're taken care of. Okay, so I know for me, I feel like, oh my God, I need to go through my policies because I have no idea what, not that I have no idea, but I feel like I want to go through all my policies and know more specifically what exactly is in them.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to people out there listening to take action on knowing that they're taken care of? What would be that thing that they
Well,
can do?
and this is something that I always do with my clients is I always look at scheduling a in-office review once a calendar year. When it's not even time for like policy like renewal, but just at one time to do a check-in. We can go through and go through what your policy's coverages are. You can see what has changed in your lifestyle. Have you
Right.
had a son that's maybe gone off to college? There's those different things. How does that impact you? What
Yeah.
type of coverage do you have when they're at the dormitory or their house? Do they have is all their personal items covered there? Well, those are questions that what they took. A $15,000 entertainment center there with them. That's a pretty fancy thing, but what, kids these days they need their entertainment systems. So but is that protected? Well, that has to be a conversation. Bring in, let's have so come into our office. Let's discuss, what's going on with your family, and do that. So that again, going back to the personal service of working with your insurance agent, whoever that may be, and if you got a great relationship with them, wonderful. That's the first thing that I would want. If you don't have that type of relationship with, look for that. And there's always people that are willing to help. But that's what I would strongly encourage there, Kelly.
I love that. I love that getting and annually because, like
Yeah,
you said, life happens and you kind of forget the insurance sometimes because life is happening.
yeah,
And for me, right away, I think of Mason heading off to college. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know about that, so I'm definitely going to be checking
yeah.
on that.
Well, and I will say this, and I know with Age Well, and you're definitely focused on the homes portion as well. I can't tell you, and I don't know why, but over the last 2 or 3 months, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that have forgotten to tell me that they've bought a car over the last 2 or 3 months. So it's like you come in, it's like I don't have that car. I bought a new one. You did? You should. You never called me. You never. I mean,
Right.
I don't have a sixth sense that knows you went car shopping right there.
Yeah.
So let your insurance carriers know that you went and bought a car or something like that. But same thing. With your home, going back to this, you're doing a lot of improvements. You built up the ADU. Maybe you also had to redo your roof. Well, if your insurance carrier didn't know that you redid your roof, that's a good thing because there's a discount that could possibly be there, or they're going to reschedule that. So having those check-ins on an annual basis of what you've done for upgrades or different items, big purchase items, is a must do to have. And I would put that as a to-do list each year. You go to each, you probably go to the doctor once a year, right, to do a quick check-in, right? And to me, the insurance is the same thing. We're going to go in, we're going to do an insurance check-in, just like you would do with the auto mechanic and having your oil changed, and they do a 100-point inspection routine right there. They're doing a check-in. Go in once a year and do your insurance check-in.
I love that. I mean, and again, it just makes sense, but it's so overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is wonderful. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you, email address, all that information. And of course, I'll put it all in the show notes too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. Well, um, phone number is 503 That's my direct office line. My cell number, 503-522-2762. That's my mobile number. All my clients have that. Definitely give me a call there. I'm right there in Gresham, Morgan, off of Powell. My email address is Mike, Mike, period, then Estlund, and that's Estlund, at Country Financial, and that's all one word, .com. And then I do have a Facebook page, Mike Estlund, Country Financial, so you can reach me there. And there also is a booking link that I know you said you'll share.
Yep.
If you want to just schedule a booking link to have a 20, 30-minute conversation to get to know me, and at least see there's no harm in at least having a conversation. Let's book an appointment.
This is great, Mike. I appreciate you and all the work you do. And again, making insurance more heartfelt.
Yeah.
Those are the people who I like to connect with and work with. Is when life can go by fast,
Yes, it
and
does.
when you're working with people who enjoy the work they do and they're doing it from the heart, that's what matters. So thank you for being my insurance person
Yeah.
and helping people the way you do. So
Yeah.
thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Age Well Home and Lifestyle podcast. If this episode sparks something in you, share it with a friend or family member. Let it be the start of a real life, meaningful conversation, because that's how we grow together. And I'd love to hear from you. What topics are you curious about? What questions are on your mind? Reach out and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, live true, and keep creating a life and home that's aligned with your truest self.